Have you outgrown your violin teacher? Do you feel like more and more you're getting less and less out of your violin lessons? Now, most people will outgrow their first violin teacher eventually if they continue to practice and improve. Most violin teachers who specialize in beginning students are not super helpful for, intermediate or advanced students, and at some point, you'll probably have to get a new teacher. Today, I'm going to offer you some insight so you know, yes, it's definitely time to get another teacher, and I'm going to give you some advice on the best way to do it. So stick around. So first of all, what do I mean specifically when I say you've outgrown your teacher? Well, usually when you first start lessons with a teacher, they've got a lot of insights, they've got a lot of things that they can show you how to do. They're really helpful in the beginning. But then, as lessons progress and as you start to, run out of their experience or the level that they're most comfortable teaching, then the lessons become less and less productive. So at that point, okay, the lessons have gotten so unproductive that it's time for me to get another teacher for the next level so I can get back that really high level of productivity. And unfortunately, what happens a lot of the times is that your teacher, if they're really optimized for beginning students or intermediate students, they will just run out of ways to help you, right? They'll run out of techniques to teach you. They will have, less insight into why you're having issues with particular pieces or with a particular technique. And after a while, they just become your practice manager. So you find that you're just you're going, the most benefit that they provide is the fact that it forces you to practice every week because you've got a lesson coming up. So they're just kind of your practice manager, right? So, oh no, I've got a lesson. I better scramble and get some practice time in. So you practice a little bit, and you go to your lesson and you get through it. Maybe you didn't learn a whole lot, but you didn't, make the teacher really angry because you didn't practice at all for, the week before that. So you don't want to be in the situation where the teacher has basically just become your practice manager. Now, a teacher that is a good fit for you or your child who may be, studying with a teacher is one that can provide a lot of insight and you can see that there's growth every lesson. Okay, so how do you know for sure that you definitely probably need to, move on to a new teacher? Okay, so there's probably 4 main things you can probably look at. So number 1, do you or your child represent the top 1%, of the studio consistently, right? So if you're going to recital after recital and you got all these, let's say a sea of little kids or beginning students and you're, at the top by far, that could indicate, now not for sure, but it could indicate that you're getting, you're basically have stretched the limit of what the teacher is, really optimized, the level they're optimized to teach. And, you're kind of at their limit. And so you might want to start looking to another teacher who's got a studio where maybe you'll be at the bottom or maybe you'll be in the middle. That way you're kind of incentivized more to practice harder because if you're surrounded by all these people who are better than you, and that might, serve as a motivation. So number 2, does the teacher tend to spend more and more time in the lesson talking about personal stuff? So instead of getting right down into the nitty-gritties, do you find that they're kind of talking about, what you did last week, how's your pet doing, how's your mom doing, how's your whatever doing, so you kind of feel like maybe they're filling in the time with stuff that's not necessarily violin related. Sometimes teachers will start to fall back on this stuff if they have subconsciously realized that they're kind of running out of ways to help the student. Okay, so number 3, are there some pieces that right now or maybe in the future, they're more advanced pieces that you want to learn and you've mentioned them to the teacher, but they don't really seem to be very knowledgeable of the pieces or perhaps not that interested? That might be an indication that these pieces are a little bit above their level, either their level of ability or their level of familiarization. So let's say if you're a classical musician, there's a more advanced book that you want to get into, or there's some sonatas or concertos that you want to play, and they don't really seem very, maybe you started in a lesson, they don't really know what the bowing should be or the fingering should be, and they haven't played it in a long time, they haven't taught it in a long time. This could be an indicator that you're pushing the envelope in terms of what they're familiar with and what their level of expertise is. Now let's say you're a fiddle player or you play Celtic music or something like that. could be a similar situation. Now you might be able to bring, some tunes in front of them that they're not super familiar with, and that's okay. But what if, you put some harder, tune in front of them and they just have no idea how to play it and they can't even figure it out. And they're thinking, well, I got to take this home and, maybe spend some time. And you can tell it's kind of at the limit of their ability. This might be a good indicator that, you've, again, reached, the limit of their familiarity or their experience level. Okay, so number 4 would be if you want to learn some advanced techniques like vibrato, some higher levels of advanced spiccato technique, or even, higher positions on the violin, right? So a lot of beginning teachers will be very comfortable teaching, let's say, first position up through, let's say, third position, right? First position, second position, third position, maybe fourth, but probably not, right? So let's say there's some pieces that require you to play in, fifth, sixth, and seventh position, right? And, so if they have a lot of students who you notice that are not really playing in those upper positions, and when they do, they're really, really out of tune, and they just don't sound very good, or the teacher, is not really putting pieces in front of you that have those, or you ask them about it, they don't really have much to say, or they're kind of uncomfortable with it. Or vibrato, right? We all know that eventually vibrato gives you that nice warm sound. It helps you project. It makes you not sound like a student so much, right? That's kind of like puts you on a trajectory for sounding more professional, sound like an advanced player. So do the other students have vibrato? There's a lot of beginning teachers who are just not comfortable teaching vibrato at all. They might have vibrato, but they do not have a set method for teaching vibrato, and they're kind of uncomfortable teaching it. So if they're not, you don't see it in their students, they don't really seem to have a set method for teaching you how to do vibrato. They just say, hey, wiggle your hand. That's a pretty good indicator. Advanced spiccato techniques. Now, most teachers will have a pretty basic idea of how to bounce the bow, but let's say you want to play more advanced technique. Let's say you want to talk about martelet, or some heavy brush strokes, or light brush strokes, or some sautillet, or some other stuff like that, ricochet. Let's say if they don't really have a set methodology for teaching some of these advanced techniques, and plus maybe they just can't do them, then this is a clear indicator that, okay, again, you've pretty much, you're at the limits of, what they're able to teach or what they're comfortable with. Okay, so let's say that you now, you are about 85-90% sure, yeah, I probably need to find a new teacher, right? Somebody who can take me to the next level. So now, how do you do it? Well, the answer is, I don't know. I don't think there's any really good way to do it that I'm aware of. It is highly dependent on the relationship that you have with the teacher. Have you had lessons with them for 3 months, or 3 years, or 13 years? It really, the kind of relationship you have and how much you care about, hurting their feelings, I guess, will kind of determine what you do. But here are some ideas. Oh, and by the way, before I forget to mention, a lot of teachers will pass you on to a new teacher eventually, but almost always they pass your students on to the next teacher far too late. And there's a lot of reasons for this, right? The teachers have a lot of biases that prevent them from doing what they should do earlier, and so do the parents, and so does the students, right? So if one of them is monetary, right? If you're a teacher, you're losing a revenue stream, right? You got to pay rent and everything just like everybody else. That is a reason. Even if you're nice and you care about the student and everything else, it is a revenue stream for them. The other reason is, if you have a teacher for a long time, or a student a long time, you develop a relationship with them. They feel like they're part of the family. They might know your kids, or they know your kids, or they their pets. Maybe you go to their house, maybe they come to your house. You feel like they're part of the family. So how can you just fire a part of the family, right? So at least that's what it feels like. So there's a lot of reasons why the teacher or the parent may not do what they need to do as early as they need to. Okay, but going back, here are a few things that I advise. Some ideas that you can use to make this happen. So number 1, bring a gift or a card or both to the teacher. At some point when you're you're pretty sure, yeah, you're going to part ways as far as your professional relationship, let them know how much you appreciate them, right? So teachers, they put a lot of effort into their students. A lot of times there's a lot of effort that they put into the students, that's not in the lesson, right? There's a lot of time there and a lot of concern and thought that you don't see. And so you want to show your appreciation, right? So even though they can't help you perhaps at the next level, doesn't mean that they didn't help you a lot in the beginning. So give them a gift or a card. Express to them how much you appreciate everything that they've done for you, and how they've fostered your love of music. They've put you on a great path. They've enabled you to do all kinds of things that you couldn't do before, and you'll never forget the part that they played in your musical journey. So make sure they know that they're really appreciated, right? So it's a very positive thing. It's not a negative thing. It's a positive thing. It's a time of appreciation. Okay, so a lot of people, a lot of parents, or students, they will come up with lies, basically. They'll just say stuff that's just completely untrue, like I'm taking a break from the violin or something, let's say, when they have no intention of doing that. They just say, oh, I want to take a break from lessons. Well, yeah, break from the teacher, not from lessons, right? So there's all kinds of things that they might do to try to avoid confrontation, right? I suggest really just be honest, say nothing but things that are true, but express truths that are, not hurtful. They're not combative. They don't put you in an uncomfortable situation. Okay, so what are some of the truths that you can use? Okay, so the first practical reason that comes to mind is that, you want to learn some different techniques, maybe some more advanced techniques, or different pieces or more advanced pieces, and you feel like a different approach to the violin, to the music, to the technique would be helpful for you. You feel that, and a lot of people feel this way, that if you take from one teacher too long, then you kind of become, to some extent, like a clone of them. So you really want to have a variety of teachers giving you input, so you're more of a well-rounded musician. So this really is a good reason to switch to another teacher, because it's going to help you, see things from a different angle and ultimately help you long-term. Another very practical, truthful reason for switching teachers is, could be the driving situation. Maybe the new teacher is closer. Maybe you can carpool to this new teacher. Maybe your child can carpool to this new teacher. So, it would make things a lot more efficient, a lot easier and quicker. And so, with everybody's busy schedule these days, that's a very good benefit that could occur by switching to this different teacher. Another real benefit that could be derived from another teacher would be perhaps their affiliation with a group or a school or some organization that you want your child to be involved in. It could be an orchestra, it could be some kind of performance group, it could be a school, right? If this teacher has some kind of association, to one of these groups, well, that could be an in for your kid. That could be, a leg up. So that's a very good practical, real reason why you might want to switch to another teacher as well. So that's about all the kind of practical reasons that I can think of the top of my head. And, maybe you have some more ideas. Maybe you guys have some experience in this arena. So please put them in the comments below. I'm really curious to see, what ideas you guys have come up with, or what maybe some funny excuses, that you guys have come up with in the past. Put them in the comments. And of course, if you have any questions, you can put those down there as well. Because this video is actually the second video in a row that I've done where I got the idea to do the video based off of questions that people ask me in the comments. So please ask me questions, because it gives me ideas. But in closing, probably the most important thing to remember is that, you're appreciative to the teacher, you show that appreciation, and you're truthful. Long term, that's probably be the best thing that you can possibly do, and it's probably going to work out just fine. Because most teachers, if they've been teaching for very long, they've experienced this many times. It's not a new thing to them, right? All teachers, no matter who they are, have students that come and go. It's just a part of being a teacher. So chances are it's not going to be that as bothersome as you think it is. It's not going to be this horribly uncomfortable experience that you envision that it might be. It'll probably be it'll go over just fine. The teacher will be professional, and it'll work itself out. So guys, I hope I've been some help today, and I've answered answered a few questions. And like I said before, if you got any other questions, of course, put them below. You can always DM me, you can email me, whatever. I get back to pretty much everybody. So, feel free to give me ideas for videos or, whatever. So next week, it's on to another video. And in the meantime, happy practicing.